This is the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast, Episode 5. The Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast is a bi-weekly podcast dedicated to the world of scuba diving, ocean health, sustainability, and fostering a new generation of ocean stewards through diving education. Hello again, everyone. I'm Jeff Centropino, founder and president of the Scuba Educational Alliance of Connecticut, and thanks so very much for tuning into this latest episode. I trust that everyone is doing well as we make our way through November, and you've made that adjustment to the time change. That is, if you rolled the clocks back in your neck of the woods. I know not everyone does this, and I really wish we would just settle on a standard time and not have to make this change twice a year. Now, last week I again joined the Level Up podcast from Scuba Diving Industry magazine for their monthly show. Now, I had a chance to talk about my latest article on why the DEMA show still matters to dive retailers, and I can't wait for the show. Donna and I leave on Saturday for Las Vegas. Now, I'll be attending the Board of Directors meeting on Sunday, and then we're going to go out to the Grand Canyon on Monday before the show really kicks off. So, it should be a great time. Now, needless to say, a lot has happened since the last episode, and the biggest thing is that our presidential election is over. And because of the historic nature of the past election, my featured segment today will be on my reflections of the post-election and how we can learn a lot from the scuba diving community about moving forward. But up first is Sea State for some news and information updates. This is Sea State here on the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast for November 14th, 2024. Let's start off today with a couple of items that were in the latest Oceana newsletter. The first article reported on Oceana's new campaign that they launched in the Philippines. Now, this initiative is about reducing fish loss in Samar, specifically in Daram, Samar. Samar is a province in the Philippines about 325 miles southeast of Manila. Now, this initiative is part of the Food and Livelihood campaign in Damar, where they indicate that about 40% of their fish catch there is lost to spoilage. There are roughly 40,000 people who live in this area, and the estimate is that 40% live in poverty. Now, there are a number of reasons for the spoilage. The small fishing boats have no shade, no refrigeration, and there's no method to preserve their catch. And then, when they get to shore, the post-harvesting facilities and processing are lacking. Now, the campaign hopes to have better landing sites for the fishermen and better methods of preventing spoilage. Eliminating the spoilage can help address the issue in Samar of 60 to 75% of the population facing food uncertainty. Now, the Philippines National Administration has a goal of an 8 to 10% reduction in loss. Let's hope they gain some traction and reach their goal. Now, the second item from Oceana newsletter is about a new book that was just released on November 12th. It's called Vanishing A Bestiary of Extraordinary Endangered Creatures, and it's by Katherine Rundell. I had to look up the meaning of bestiary, and that's a descriptive or anecdotal treatise on various real or mythical kinds of animals, especially a medieval work with a moralizing tone. Now, the Boston Globe says this celebration of seahorses, lemurs, and others double as a wake-up call. Look around and protect what you love. Now, the book consists of 23 essays dedicated to unusual and underappreciated creatures. You can listen to an audio sample on the penguinrandomhouse.com website, and it's about the wombat. I think I'll head over to my local Barnes & Noble and check it out. Now, that's Vanishing Treasures by Katherine Rundell. Last week, I received my fourth quarter edition of the Journal of Diving History from the Historical Diving Society. Now, I always look forward to getting the latest magazine, and this is another milestone for the Historical Diving Society, as it is now into its 33rd year of uninterrupted publication. That says a lot. This one is issue 121. Now, the cover story for this quarter is on Joe Savoy and the modern diving helmet, the 60th anniversary. Also, in addition to a lot of other great stories, there are a couple of book reviews. One is on Paper Diver, how the world's greatest underwater treasure hunter never got wet, and it's by Barry Pinkerton. And the other review is on Treasures, Shipwrecks, and the Dawn of Red Sea Diving by Howard Rosenstein. Now, Howard will be at the DEMA show in the Author's Corner next week, and I hope to stop by and meet him. If you're into diving history or want to learn more, the Journal of Diving History is a fantastic resource and a benefit of your membership in the Historical Diving Society. I just renewed my membership last month. Back in October, I did an in-depth segment on COP16, that's the UN Biodiversity Conference, and the special session on coral reefs. Well, COP16 is over, and there's an urgent call for increased funding to save coral reefs. That should come as no surprise. Now, according to an article from downtoearth.org, there was an emphasis on the need for collective action to protect these vital ecosystems and the contribution they provide to global biodiversity. The economic value of coral reefs is pegged at $9.9 trillion a year. The Global Fund for Coral Reefs, GFCR, has a target of $12 billion to support efforts to save coral reefs. So far, New Zealand has pledged $10 million, and they have secured $30 million in funding, so there's a long way to go. The urgent calls for both public and private funding. Pierre Bardou of the UN Capital Development Fund said that this is a critical juncture. Immediate and decisive action is necessary to prevent the functional collapse of coral ecosystems. Okay, as divers, we see what is happening. Unfortunately, most people don't. But the work to save the coral reefs needs to continue. And while I'm on the subject of coral reefs and the need for protection and resiliency, I came across an item online about some resiliency work being done. I think it's out in Palau. The work is being done by Newcastle University along with the Coral Assist Lab and Palau International Coral Reef Center. This might be a bit controversial because it involves selective breeding to enhance coral heat tolerance to marine heat waves. The whole study is about how bleaching events happen with accumulated heat stress and degree heating weeks. They noted that some adult corals are heat tolerant and it's inheritable, and for the first time they have shown that a single generation can produce a significant change in heat tolerance of adult offspring. The hope is that they can rapidly assess which corals are heat tolerant before a bleaching event occurs and improve resiliency. Now, I guess it will take some time and effort, but at least some options are being discovered. Now, here's some news from Excess Scuba. They just announced that they are launching a new public safety program and product line, and they have tapped John Druniak, who is formerly the head of Aqualung's public safety group and most recently is with White's Dryware. Excess Scuba makes some great recreational products, and I'm sure they will produce some great gear for their public safety teams. The press release talked about developing high-quality, mission-critical equipment with exclusive pricing structures for public safety agencies. Now, Excess Scuba was formed in 2002 and claims to be the largest supplier of scuba cylinders and thermovalves. They also have the Highland line that I really like. I'm sure that they will be showcasing this at DEMA show, and I look forward to catching up with them there. And finally, the Underwater Photographer of the Year 2025 contest is now open, and you don't need to be a professional to compete. This year, PADI is partnering with the UK-based organization in sponsoring the up-and-coming category. Now, to be considered for this category, you cannot have won a major international photo competition, nor do you regularly have your work published in paid outlets, and you are not affiliated with an underwater gear manufacturer as a brand ambassador. Entry is now open through midnight January 4th, 2025, and the results will be announced mid-February. You can register at, this is all one word, underwaterphotographeroftheyear.com. That's all one word. So get your best shot ready and take a chance. Well, that's it for this latest installment of CSATE here on the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast. No doubt last week's election was historic, and while there is now certainty on who will be leading the United States for the next 4 years, there's still a lot of uncertainty on exactly what's going to happen. And it's always great to hear from both sides immediately after a bruising campaign about a call for unity. Most of us know that this doesn't last very long. Why not? Now, I had a tough time deciding on whether I wanted to do this segment. We all have our political views, and I've tried to stay away from expressing mine on my podcasts. I tend to think of myself as fairly down the middle when it comes to things these days, and perhaps there's a reason why I continue to want to stay in the middle. Maybe it's scuba diving. In July 2022, I read an article penned by Mitt Romney that ran in The Atlantic titled "America in Denial." He claimed that too many Americans are blithely dismissing threats that could prove cataclysmic. At the time, that got me thinking about the polarization across the United States. Republican versus Democrat, left versus right, liberal versus conservative, red states against blue states. It goes on and on. My question at that time, and still is, what happened to the middle? For those of us in the scuba diving community, I think we are an example of that middle. Now, like I said at the top of the show, last week I participated in the latest episode of the Level Up podcast from Scuba Diving Industry magazine. Each month, a number of us authors take a few minutes to discuss our latest article. Now, the podcast is hosted by Greg Hull from Scuba Radio. We recorded the podcast right after the election, and Greg sported a hat that said, "Make America Dive Again." So I thought I'd focus on today on how our community of divers really shows us how we can come together in the middle, something I think as a nation we need to strive for. As a scuba diving community, we all have a common passion for the underwater world. And whether you are someone who enjoys coral reefs, caves, shipwrecks, or the thrill of technical diving, we all somehow come together. Our community of divers is diverse, with individuals from all sides of the political spectrum. We span different religions, ethnicity, demographics. I would say that for the most part, we don't question one another's beliefs or values. I like to think that our middle is the water. We can come together to this middle in many different ways. Let's take our equipment, for example. Just look at the diversity that's out there. Rebreathers, double tanks, different BC configurations, various computers, you name it. Scuba divers are very passionate about their equipment choices and can have detailed opinions about their selection. But at the end of the day, after the discussion, dialogue, and debate, we again respect the choices that individuals make as we come together in our middle and enter the underwater world. Beyond this example of equipment, the scuba diving community is based on mutual trust and mutual understanding of the environment we get to explore. The laws of physics exist, and we accept them. It doesn't matter what equipment you have or whether you're on one side of the political aisle or the other. The fact is that when we descend to 33 feet of seawater, our bodies are subjected to 2 atmospheres absolute. You can't change physics just because you're conservative, liberal, or independent. In scuba diving, we are also taught to trust our buddy. Our buddy is someone we can depend upon should an emergency arise. Sometimes our buddy might not be someone we know. That happens a lot on boat dives with single divers. There is, however, a mutual trust that we will take care of one another should an emergency arise. This is another example where our community comes together. And it's not just our dive buddies. We have trust with the boat captain, the crew, and the dive masters. We expect that they will focus on our safety, help us when we're in need, and safely get us back to the boat. We are responsible for our own dive, but we still rely on the professionals in our community. And then think about the dive shop. As a former dive shop owner, I interacted with a lot of different people. There were our long-standing customers, brand new divers, and those who were just curious about scuba diving. Like the water, the dive shop is a middle ground. Also, as a diver, we often visit various shops when we travel. For the most part, I would say that they're welcoming, engaging, and not judging you on your preferences in diving. Okay, I realize that we live in the real world of politics and polarization. We are told by both sides that they will fight for us. I'm done with that fighting. What I need is for both sides to work for us. I don't want to engage on battlegrounds. I want us to build, not tear down. Look, as administration changes, so will the direction that certain initiatives take. There's a lot of concern right now for the expected shift on environmental policy and direction. As a diving community, I would expect that for the most part, there is deep concern. We see firsthand the impacts of pollution and climate change on the ocean. I also suspect that as a diving community, we will come together in the middle to continue to work on positive solutions to address these challenges. Our community is just one example of where we come together in the middle. There are many other communities out there that are like this, that come together in the middle regardless of their political stripes. Senator Romney implored us back in 2022 to end our national malady of denial, deceit, and distrust. His appeal resonates now more than ever. I hope that there are many more ways people can come together in the middle and that will dominate our national dialogue. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but there is work, not fighting, to be done. And now I'm off to find the middle out in Las Vegas at the Diving Equipment and Marketing Association show, where the dive community will come together. Now this comes at a really great time, and I'm looking forward to the show. And I'll give you a recap about it next time. Until then, please take care and be sure to subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date. Bye for now. This has been the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast, a show dedicated to the world of scuba diving, ocean health, sustainability, and fostering a new generation of ocean stewards through diving education. Talk to you again real soon.